got basketball to watch.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to welcome you to the March 2023 Planning Commission meeting. Thank all of you guys and girls that are in attendance. Everyone that's here, did you receive your packets from last month's meeting in time to review?
Yes.
Any changes, or can we accept the minutes as presented? Any changes noted? And I'll make a
No.
motion. I'll make a motion to accept the minutes as presented.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. We have one public hearing tonight on a capital improvement budget, and we only have, let's see, Don, where's one of the heads in attendance here.
I believe Matt Smith is going to be online and Donald Brown as well. Not sure about Jeffrey.
We have anybody online yet?
Nobody
Plans?
Oh, Jeffrey is there, okay.
Okay, perfect. Don, you want to bring us up to speed on where we are on these, please? Mr. Gill, do you want to bring us up to speed?
Mr. Chairman, last month you heard presentations from the departments requesting capital improvement items and answered any questions that you all had. Last month I circulated an email with the list of requests. You all ranked them individually and then emailed them back to me. I compiled that listing, and the way they are listed on your cost summary sheet are the way that you all ranked them in the order of priority. So you had the 11 items, and as we stated last month, the new school project and the $5 million worth of public access sites are included in FY '24, but were not in the rankings because those items were previously approved and the funding has already been secured for those items. I don't know what Lieutenant Haywood and Chief Smith and Supervisor Brown, Solid Waste Supervisor Brown, may have to contribute. They're all online. But I do know that John Mann with the schools has an updated figure for buses, and based on a new estimate from the state. So that number is going to go up, but I'll let him share that with you. So this is your public hearing tonight. After you've heard all the comment that you want to hear, I would ask that you prioritize these requests or leave them as is if you like, and make a recommendation to the Board of Supervisors. This item has been advertised as required by law, and other than the discussion at last month's Planning Commission meeting, I've had no other response from the public.
Thank you, Mr. Gill. Does anyone have any questions regarding the rankings? They're able to hear us online, correct?
Yes.
Other than Mr. Mann, what is the updated figure?
So the new state contract price is $135,500 instead of the $117.
135,500?
Yes, sir.
That's for a 77 passenger?
That is for a 77-passenger air-conditioned bus, since we're starting so early in August as we continue to move forward with that.
So that basically would take that number to 271?
Correct.
Why doesn't anything ever go down?
I asked Travis that too, as he was working on the middle school stuff. He just shrugged.
Ask you something. I've been hearing, like, I don't know whether it was some special funding. What's going on with the electric buses? I mean, is there something special going on with it?
There has been things in the past going on with the electric buses. One of the challenges of electric buses out here is you can only use them on routes. I know Middlesex has some.
Okay.
Right now, we don't actually have a location to plug them in. And that's the biggest thing is as we transfer to our more permanent buildings, whether it be a new high school, middle school, there may be, there has been some discussions about making it where we could, should we choose to down the road, pursue that. But one of the challenges is distance that we travel for our sports. You can't do a route and a sport in the same bus.
Yeah, understood.
Okay, yeah, maybe a month ago or something, it seemed like me, I was hearing some type of special funding that schools went to.
There is, and it's got mainly to do with the power distribution, where you plug the bus into, as well as there is some grants out there for the buses themselves.
Yeah, okay.
Any questions for Mr. Mann? Thank you. I'll open up to the heads that are online. Have there been any price changes that we need to know about before opening this up to public hearing?
Yeah, I mean, is it just Jeffrey and Matt?
I don't know who the other person is, the name I've got on my screen.
That's probably Donald, yeah. Go ahead and let all three of them in. You only got two? Okay,
And you haven't heard of anything, any changes or anything like that?
no. Okay, Matt and Jeffrey, unmute yourselves, and the question is, do you all have any knowledge of any price changes since last month?
No, this is Jeffrey. I have no knowledge of any price changes.
Okay, thank you.
Matt, do you have any change in price? You don't have Matt yet? Okay.
Maybe Don.
Donald, are you on there? You got to unmute yourself if you are. He only had the one item, and the
Okay.
60,000 is good for that vehicle.
Okay. I would think so, just want to give him a chance to talk. Okay, any other questions before we open up the public hearing? All right, at this time, we will open up the public hearing portion of our meeting. If you have any comments or any other information that pertaining to the capital improvement budget ranking that we're going to forward to the Board of Supervisors, please step forward and state your name and district. And if you're online, please raise your hand. Anybody?
Matt, can you hear us?
Yes.
Hey, the question before you jumped on was, are you aware of any price changes to your requested items since last month's meeting?
I'm not aware of any now.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Matt. All right, no one else online has raised their hand? Okay, we'll close this portion of the public hearing. We got the rankings out, it's been working good for us. What do you guys think?
I have no heartburn with what's on here.
Fine to me.
I'm fine with it. You good, man? All right. We want to make a motion to forward this as we see it to the Board of Supervisors and with our current rankings?
With the change for the bus price?
With the change with the bus price, thank you.
So moved? Do I have to say all that?
Yes.
I'd like to forward the capital improvement budget with the ranking listed here, with the change of the bus to 135.5 per bus, and forward that to the Board of Supervisors with a recommendation for approval.
Thank you, Ms. Booth. We got a recommendation or motion on the board, or on the floor. All in favor?
Aye?
Aye. Okay. All right. Thank you, guys. Thank the department heads. Thank you. All right, up next on our docket is a consideration item, proposed zoning ordinance, Article 29, short-term rental regulations. Mr. Farrell? You wanna bring this
Yeah,
up?
actually, I'll take
Oh,
it.
Mr. Gill? Sorry.
At last month's meeting, you all reviewed a draft from a citizen who is also a resident in a neighborhood that has a short-term rental. He put together a draft of some suggested changes to our draft ordinance, and Tom Richardson went through that and highlighted in yellow, if you all can remember, the changes that he thought the planning commission should review, and you all reviewed those last month. And you wanted to add some, and some you didn't, and I have made those changes to the draft ordinance. And the next step, if you believe that all review is complete at this time, would be to schedule another public hearing for Article 29, the proposed short-term rental ordinance, as well as the associated zoning ordinance amendments, which would need to be done to effectuate the Article 29. And you have those in your memo. That includes Article 1 definitions, Article 4 A2 district, Article 5 R1 district, Article 6A R4 district, Article 7 R3 district, and Article 18, the waterfront residential overlay district.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Gill. It seems to me, after a little bit of back and forth, we've got something that's as good as any other ordinance that I've read, and we've all read a ton of them. And it seems to be fair for both sides. You guys have anything to add to this we've got here?
I have some comments on some of this. On page 2, the first paragraph, where we talk about or any covenant of any homeowners association. I think that the county may be getting in a risky position if we start enforcing homeowner.
We would not be enforcing them. What that means is they have to show us that it complies with their HOA before we will, take their money and put them on the registry. If it does not comply with their HOA, we're not going to accept it.
That's what I think is risky, because in effect, we're enforcing a homeowner's contract, which is a contract between the owners of a home in a specific area, and it's always enforced by a court, not a municipal authority.
But to me,
I think we're taking on unnecessary legal risk. For example, with the outfit along High Banks, they would like us to enforce their homeowners ordinance. There's somebody in there has apparently a successful short-term rental, has had that for some time. We know that one person in there objects to that. We don't know whether any of the other residents object to it. If when they come before us in a public hearing to get their license, whatever we call it, their authority to have a short-term rental, if we deny their application because of the homeowners association rule, I'm pretty sure they will challenge that in court, and in my opinion, they'd win. The court would say that the county does not have standing. In any event, my point is, I think we're taking on some legal risk, and I think it's unnecessary. At that hearing, if the members of that homeowners association appear and testify against this short-term rental operator, we can deny on that basis. I think it's an unnecessary risk. And I haven't seen any other ordinance that does that.
The way Mr. Gill just explained it, I mean, I'm going to disagree with you, because the
Okay.
way he just explained it, it sounds like what we're saying is you don't have the right to do what you're doing there by your own laws or your own agreement when you moved in this place, therefore we're not going to allow it. If we were to allow it, and then the homeowners association said, well, you can't do that. Now, to me, the county seems like it's in the middle. The county's going to have to come to court and say, well, we're going by our code. And to me, it seems like there's a bigger fight on that end than there is on the way it's written right now, the way Mr. Gill just explained it.
I would say neither of us are attorneys, so let's leave it in here and let the county attorney decide whether
Well,
it stays or
I
not.
would kind of go against you too, Dave, because I'm just looking at it, it's a checklist. It's like one of these things you have to check in order to get an approval from the county. And I'm kind of with Steve, if the county doesn't go that route and issues a permit and they don't allow in the HOA, well then, I think we would be in a bigger scuttlebutt.
Okay.
In my opinion. I see what you're saying.
Mr. Gill is right, Al Cannon, Attorney will
Yeah.
Fair enough.
point us in the right direction.
Okay,
Makes sense to me.
moving on down to 29-3-3. We still have in there operating in one structure. And as I brought up at the last meeting, especially on some of these big estates, they have a big home that they have in a short-term rental. They also, a fair number of them, have a guest house or an apartment over a garage or whatever, that they also include when there are large families that are renting the short-term rental or whatever. I would suggest that we add at the end of that paragraph, unless they are authorized by the Board of Supervisors to utilize more than one structure, to allow for that.
I just took what the majority of the planning commission recommended for changes. So if the majority wishes to change that, we can do it.
Right. I think that's true of all of this.
Again, I'm gonna disagree, Dave, because then you got the running, I mean, how the hell are we supposed to figure out which building is having two sets of occupants in it? So then in essence, you got four sets of occupants coming in the same property on a weekly basis. And I think that goes against what we're trying to do. Do you follow what I'm saying?
No.
So if you're saying that they can have only 2 guests per structure, and they got 2 structures, well, that's 4 sets of guests. Coming and going to 2 different properties.
I think this is,
In a
what I'm
weekly
talking
time.
about is one family. I mean, it's one,
But then aren't you gonna come up with the possibility of having more than, didn't we limit it to a certain number of people?
Yeah.
So now if we got 2 different structures, now you're gonna overload those number of people. I mean,
I don't think it changes the number of people. That restriction would still apply. Okay, well, I didn't come here to argue about these things.
No, we didn't either. I just think that's getting away from what we're trying to do.
Okay. And then down in 29-3-8, up until now, we've allowed them 60 minutes to respond. We shortened that to 30. I think 30 is unreasonable. I think we should go back to 60.
Again, that was a majority.
I got no problem with that. I think that, yeah, I
From
mean,
last
30
week.
minutes is, I can't even get my kids out the door in 30 minutes.
Well, I think that the reasoning last month was it wasn't clear that you could do it by phone. And since you could do it by phone, 30 minutes may be reasonable. So I think that was the distinction.
I think the
That
consensus
wasn't,
was you didn't want to tie up law enforcement for 60 minutes. A phone call could be made within 30.
a phone call can be made, but whether or not the person who's supposed to get that phone call is available at that exact minute is another question. Again,
Yeah, I don't have a problem with the 60 minutes at all, do you?
No.
Give them some time?
Yeah.
You okay?
60.
All right, make that change
Make
to
that
60
change to
minutes?
60, yeah.
okay, and the last, this is more of a question than a suggested change, but under enforcement on the last page, in paragraph 29-7-2, we talk about 3 violations, after 3 violations, we can take their permit or whatever we call it. And in the next paragraph, we talk about taking it after 1 violation.
Well, that's in addition to other remedies. That's language in many of our ordinances. If, what that is speaking to is a condition placed by the Board of Supervisors. If the Board of Supervisors places a condition on that special exception approval and they violate that condition, then they can go back through that process, have a public hearing, and revoke that special exception. That's, that's not necessarily a three violation of, too many people on site or, 3 rentals in a 7-day period or something, or, renting 241 days instead of 240 days a year. If the board has placed a certain condition not specifically listed in this ordinance, then they can go in under 29-7-3 and go through the process and revoke that special exception based on that
Violation.
non-adherence to that condition.
Yes, and I suspected that was the case, and I think we do need both. But I think people are going to be confused when they read, maybe there's some way we can clarify the difference between the two.
Well, isn't one backed by a state code and the other one backed by just county code, which makes it a difference right there?
Well, I thought, when I read it, I saw it, because I'm sitting in this seat, I saw the difference because it says
Just-
special exception,
right.
special condition. That's the key word. The other one don't say special condition. So I come before the board and let's say, I wanna have a wedding reception
Yeah.
on, and they grant that to me, but all of a sudden the wedding reception turns into, 500 people partying all night. Then I violated the condition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I see the need. When you get old, you're easily confused.
Amen.
That's all I had, and I agree, Mr. Chairman, that I think we have an excellent ordinance.
Anybody else have anything else they'd like to add for comments? For staff?
No, we're good.
All right, I think it's ready to come on back.
You want to try another public hearing next month?
Let's do it. Let's do it. We don't need to make a recommendation.
Yeah, go ahead and make a motion to send it to public hearing next
All
month.
right, I'll go ahead and make a motion that with the noted changes from tonight, basically the 30 minutes to 60 minutes, that we move to forward this draft proposal to the board, for public hearing at next month's Lancaster Planning Commission meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, here we go. Next on our docket, we've got an update to comprehensive plan introduction in chapter 1. Mr. Farrell.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. So we're back to finishing up this last chapter and the introduction. So before you, I told you last month that the board could read over the current document and suggest any corrections or additions to this document, update any language that may be needed to be addressed, and issues recently discussed. So we can go through it, starting on page 1 if you'd like.
Anybody want to step up first? I got some ideas, if I may.
I have some too.
Okay. I'll just start with what I've got on the first page. And Mr. Farrell, you and I sort of touched on this.
Yep.
But the second paragraph, we've got, given that the fact the economy has been stagnant since 2007, I think that's, no longer the case. Maybe it was stagnant after the Great Recession, but certainly during this COVID pandemic, it's been anything but stagnant. So just to update there. And then on the bullet points, on the right below that, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The fifth bullet point, greater mix of housing with emphasis on more affordable housing. Based on what kind of we've been working on, I think we need to add workforce housing to that statement as well.
Okay.
Affordable workforce housing.
We
Affordable
have-
still need to be in that,
Yeah.
but it's affordable.
But I was gonna
work-
say affordable and
Yeah,
workforce.
well, affordable workforce, I
Okay,
think, you know.
that's fine, but I mean, I think workforce should
Yeah.
be in there, okay. And then moving right down to the final paragraph on that page, we have a indication that these chapters, and this is before my time, these chapters received an extensive review in 2000 by such agencies as the Chesapeake Bay Local Assistance Board. My question is that board still in existence? And can they do it again? I mean, that's 23 years ago.
Okay.
It may be still in existence under a different name.
Is there any other entity that the
Well,
state would let us to just look at it and give us some guidance?
We get reviewed every 5 years by DEQ for our Chesapeake Bay Act program, and they look at our comp plan.
Well, maybe we should just put that in there,
I-
that, hey,
yeah, I
instead of
think-
the 2,000.
Yeah, I think we can reword that.
Okay.
You know,
It just
to-
kind of jumped out to me.
Was that when we had the meetings all over the county at all the different churches?
That was back when that firm Land Design came down
right.
to facilitate that revision of the comp plan. Because I remember we had a meeting in each district,
Right.
and,
Seems like it might have been 23 years ago.
yeah,
God, time goes by fast. All right, the next page, at the top, we've got Chapter 7 was the most significant modification to the existing comprehensive plan. That was, again, 10 years ago. My question is, what has been the most significant this time? And I can't remember off the top of my head. I mean, we've drafted a solar ordinance, which is kind of cool. And we are working on a short-term rental ordinance. So I don't know which chapters that would address, but also we removed R4, which is, I'll address later in the, so I don't know if that's still a true statement. And if it is, that's fine, but if, it's awfully old.
Well, it was the most significant modification in 2013.
Oh, I'm sure, I'm not saying it was a
Yeah,
false statement, I'm just saying,
yeah.
could it be, I mean, we've updated a lot since then,
Yeah.
in the last 10 years. Okay, just moving right forward, on page 4, we talk about, and let's see, the 1, 2, 3, fourth paragraph where we scratched out and began to flourish. We talk about the Tides Inn, Windmill Point Marina Resort, and the Tides Lodge, 2 of which are defunct. So I don't know if we want to tout about that at all. I mean, we could maybe just say the Tides Inn, which has flourished since its inception, since 1945. But someone reading this right now wouldn't even know what the heck the Tides Lodge is.
That's page 1-4.
I'm sorry, yes, page 1-4. It starts off with Robert and Norris Bridge, and then it goes on to talk about the last sentence in that paragraph. The Tides Inn, Windmill Point, Marine Resort, and the Tides Lodge were
Okay.
all established.
So we'll take out the Tides Lodge.
And Windmill Point,
And-
yeah.
Gotcha.
And I was thinking, but there's been no other resorts to speak of that have gone in there.
Yeah.
Other services, facilities began, I mean, this is the very next paragraph. On the, let's see here. All right, so that's the 5th paragraph. We've got the Lancashire Nursing and Rappahannock General Hospital, and then we scratched out Rappahannock Community College, were established during the 1960s and 70s. And then the very next paragraph, the last sentence talks about the Rappahannock Westminster Canterbury. I'm just wondering if we want to bring up, we talk about Lancashire, Rappahannock General in the 60s and 70s, and we can bring up Commonwealth Assisted and RWC in the 1990s and 2000s. To keep that all kind of, you see what I'm saying? The last paragraph this last sentence on the very next paragraph talks about Rappahannock, Westminster, Canterbury. We could maybe put it up there to say, hey, we had this happen in the 60s and 70s or whatever, and now we got this happen in much more recently.
So, hold on, Mr. Chairman, can I stop you for a second?
Sure.
So the heading of Chapter 1 is background, history, and recent developments and trends. So do we want to take out the history?
No, I'm not suggesting we take out the history at all. I'm suggesting where we've got on that paragraph where it says other services and facilities began to appear first in the changing community needs. The Lancashire Nursing Home, comma, Rappahannock Rappahannock
We
General
need an
Hospital.
and in there.
Yeah, were all established during the 1960s and 70s, period. Then we can say, in the 1990s.
Yeah.
Commonwealth, and then whatever RWC came, which might have been the 1990s. So we, and then, but that, the plan addresses RWC in the very next paragraph, the last sentence, but basically just take that and put it into that sentence. So we're all talking about the assisted living needs being met through the last 50 years.
I think I would leave RCC in. I don't think I would scratch that
I was
out.
going to ask why we took
Yeah.
that out,
I think I would leave that in.
but it wasn't in the 70s. I mean, RCC didn't come here.
Well, RCC also wasn't established here.
Yeah, we didn't have.
Yeah, it wasn't established here in Kilmarnock, the Kilmarnock branch.
That's a branch.
until-
We might,
yeah.
just say, instead of that, because
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
a
maybe-
satellite
Yeah,
campus.
yeah, that's right.
But that was,
That was probably,
was it 90s?
It's been a while.
2000?
no, I think it's maybe 10 or 15 years ago, wasn't it?
That's
Wasn't
what I
that
was
long?
thinking.
Yeah.
2000.
Wasn't that long.
Yeah.
And then on the very next paragraph, are we all good with that?
Yeah.
Okay. Abundant sites and attractions encourage tourism and recreation today. Historic buildings, restaurants, marinas, and resorts, it's only one resort. Right there, you could say the Tides Resort, Compass, and damn, I can't read my writing there. And Belle Isle, all entice tourists interested in the serene natural beauty of the county as well as recreational activities available.
I like that.
Because they do, they all, people come to all those, in my opinion.
Okay.
And then, under the heading, just the very next paragraph, land development in Lancaster County has been, we scratched out slow since 2008. I think we could maybe make that sound a little more cheerful and say slow, slow after the Great Recession, but increasing significantly during the most recent pandemic.
Yeah, I don't think it's slow now.
No,
No.
it's anything but slow.
Yeah.
And then, most of the recent development has been associated with smaller family subdivisions. But I'm not sure if that's true, the way Hill's Quarter is now blowing up right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
You may have to leave your copy with Bill so he can.
Okay, that's, again, at this, and then, all right, switching pages, page 1-5. On the first paragraph, the last sentence, it talks about that Rappahannock Community College campus. I mean, that it opened in 2012, so now we know when that was.
Okay, there you go.
So we can maybe put that over there if you want to. But, I mean, we've got to talk about, I mean, we've added more than that. I mean, we've added a Super Walmart, we've added a Compass Entertainment System, I mean, significant changes. And then I'm fine with what you scratched out regarding all the census data. That's redundant anyway, because it's already in the comp plan.
Yes, sir.
And then, let's see, 1, 2, 3, the fifth paragraph, what then of the future? Clearly, the problems of affordable housing, again, if we can add the word
Workforce.
workforce in that as well, must be addressed. And then the recently adopted R4 residential, well, that's not recently adopted any longer.
That's true.
Also, growth since 1990 has been relatively modest. And then, in the very next paragraph, the very first sentence talks about the population has declined, so they're sort of contradicting one another there. So we have to go one way or the other. And I guess we got to go with the way that, although I feel as if it's changed, but the census data doesn't indicate the recent
Doesn't
numbers.
indicate that.
So
We
but
don't
we can't,
have 2020 census yet?
I don't know, do we have,
It is in the chapter 7.
but was it showing a decline? I can't remember. So we can't say we've been experiencing modest growth when the census data contradicts that.
Is there a way to update that at the bottom of 1.5 and include the 2020 data
Yes,
instead of the
ma'am.
2010?
Yeah, you check the U.S. Census data quick facts, because that's updated in between the 10-year.
And that's all I've got.
Good. Good stuff. I have a few other ones.
Okay.
In the first paragraph, we explain why we didn't employ an outside firm to do this for us or help us. I'm not sure that we need to tell them that. We don't need to explain why we didn't hire somebody. I don't think.
Just take that whole last sentence out.
Yeah, and then-
let's take that out. I would,
And then that'll sort of build on what we're talking about, that's reviewed every 5 years by DEQ. All right,
Yeah, I mean, we get reviewed every 5 years by DEQ and for Chesapeake Bay Act and for erosion and sediment control. That last paragraph, we can tweak that.
okay.
Can we jump to the very first sentence of the very top page while we're on that page? I think that the current comprehensive plan is more recent than 20,
No, that was the last fully adopted.
okay,
This revision actually started in 2018.
okay.
Damn, what kind
That's
of
crazy.
commission you got?
Right.
okay, my next one is on the next page. This thing in blue. I mean, that is such obvious puffery, and to me, it sounds kind of silly.
That was a vision statement that was crafted back in 2013.
Yeah,
So,
Lots of community input.
yeah.
anyway, that's my thought on that.
Okay,
I would take it out, but it's up to the,
The Lancaster
That
2035
is a lot of
committee
puff.
crafted a vision statement. That might be more appropriate.
That might be more relevant.
Yeah.
what's that?
I said the Lancaster 2035 committee
Yeah.
crafted a
great.
vision statement, which may be more relevant
Okay.
at this day and time than it was 10 years ago.
Sure.
So Mr. Costello may not like that, but that's... I'll help you with that, Bill.
Okay.
I don't know, maybe we've already covered this, but on page 1-3, we talk about redevelopment of intensely developed areas.
Where are you,
And
Barry?
on the-
What paragraph is it?
Top of the
Top
page.
of page
Oh, okay, sorry.
1.3.
Sorry.
Redevelopment of intensely developed areas. And on the previous page, we say that we don't have any intensely developed areas. Previous page, we say no areas in Lancaster County meet the Chesapeake Bay criteria for, quote, intensely developed. So maybe we,
Good catch. You want to strike that whole bullet point?
Yeah, we can do that.
I don't know, do we have intensely developed areas?
Apparently none that qualify under the Chesapeake Bay Act definition. I mean, I would consider Dimer Shores, Currituck by the Bay as intensely developed areas.
Along
But
the
it-
waterfront, yeah.
And maybe Lancaster Shores, it may not meet the definition under that Chesapeake Preservation Act for intensely developed, but I would consider those areas I just named as intensely developed.
Yeah.
So the question becomes, what criteria are you using?
Yeah,
What's intense?
yeah,
Anyway, it's not a big thing, but
yeah.
we might want to take a look at that and see whether,
Can you just remove the word intensely on that bullet point? don't
Yeah,
know.
I think that would
Yeah.
eliminate the contradiction.
Yeah. Redevelopment of intensely, of developed areas and other areas targeted for redevelopment. Sounds funny to me. You like that?
And that's all I had.
Thank you, Dave. Glenn, you have anything? No.
That was a good catch. I've never noticed that.
All right. That's some good input to kind of run with.
That was a good catch, because I've read this, I don't know how many times, and I've never,
About what, intensely?
yeah, well, that it was stated in a couple paragraphs before that, under the Chesapeake Bay Act, we had no areas that met that criteria, and then very next page, we talk about it. I'd never
That's
caught
because
that.
it's in the old thing where you switch the page and it's like, it's
Yeah.
gone.
I'd never
You want
caught-
this one?
Please. Thank you, sir.
Anything we need to look forward to for next month?
Do you have anything?
I do not.
What was the lady here earlier?
She had a set of plans.
Oh, no, that's for the board.
okay.
She's for the board.
Okay.
She got her meetings mixed up.
Yeah. Special exception.
That's fun. You guys have anything else for staff?
So you'll have a public hearing next month on short-term rentals?
Yes,
and
moving forward, we have a public hearing, short-term rentals. We'll bring this back to look
Bring
at
us,
it
bring us
again.
back as a consideration item.
Yeah, as a consideration.
And,
And,
and that's it, unless someone comes in with a rezoning application.
yeah, there's nothing on the horizon.
No, sir.
I have received one additional solar application, but we haven't reviewed it yet, so,
How are we with everything else solar?
and that one may not require a 2232 review because it may have a siting agreement with it, so you may or may not see that one.
Okay.
I have a question, so we're talking about solar. The property on Akron,
The first one?
when it passed, I thought they were putting it back in the far corner, but it looks like that's not the case. Did that get changed along the way?
The initial project is the one that's been built. An expansion of that has been approved, and that is getting close to construction. It was built within the area shown on the plan. They had a fenced-in area showing where the solar arrays would go. Now, I believe, I'm trying to remember back, I think the original version showed it further back, but they did move it up, but it was still within the fenced area of where it was shown on that plan.
So now it's going to be between the existing and Route 3?
No, no, it's going to be further back,
Okay,
yeah.
Remember, because there's a wetland area that they were messing with.
Yeah,
too.
yeah. Everything is going to be on the Akron side of that hedgerow.
okay.
If you
Yeah.
go in there, even if you've driven back there, it's a big area back, I guess it's kind of to the left of that, I guess. Back in that, back there, that's where
That's where it would
Back
go.
in that corner?
Yeah, yeah. You're not going to see any more panels closer to Akron Road.
Okay. That was
And
the
and
question.
you're not going to see any panels closer to Route 3.
Okay,
They're all going to be further back.
okay. And then there's a property on Route 3, if you're coming from Whitestone to Kilmarnock on the right-hand side, just after Chase's Road. It's a new big metal building. Is that commercial property there?
It is not. It's zoned R1.
Yeah. It's home occupation
It's a
for
permitted use.
Riverview Construction. It's a contractor who owns that property and the house. And he built it under that.
Wow.
I remember he wanted to come up and get a rezoning, and then they backed away at the last minute. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You guys have anything else? Thank you, everyone, again. See you next month.
Sorry.